Alright, time to make another video. I do apologize for not making a video previously, but I'll make one and make sure to upload it today with a second video that'll be a bit longer. I do apologize on that front. But it'll be a bit of an experiment, so we'll see how that one goes. Anyways, today's video will be on maintaining logical consistency. Now, when it comes to structuring an argument or building one's beliefs, consistency is very much advisable. Admittedly, the brain is an imperfect entity. It naturally has preferences that conflict and values that may clash. A person can hold two things simultaneously that, under normal circumstances, don't seem like they would cause issues, but on certain subjects do contradict each other and cause a person to need to consolidate that. But despite that, finding a consistent thread of logic to build your beliefs around is vital to hold a reasoned position. If you have a position that is illogical and don't realize it, that is a problem on you. Because you haven't thought your beliefs to their logical conclusions. Or any conclusion, really. You're just saying things you think sound nice. That you think sound good. But is that really practical? No, it isn't. I think it sounds good to let people do what they want, but is that always a good idea? No, there must be something more to that. It's easy to say laissez-faire, let everyone do what they want. But what if what they want to do violates another person's abilities to do so? That is where we get ideas such as the non-aggression principle for the libertarians, or the basic phrase, your rights end where the other's nose begins. The idea that the moment someone's rights clash with a different person's, bodily autonomy is what ensures who can do what. When you have beliefs or values, think of them like those people. A value is held, like a person has their own body which they possess. And it may come into conflict with another body or person. And the job of the person who we are is to take all these values, all these people, and make a functioning society out of them. One that has consistency and structure enough to maintain itself. That is essentially what we want to do as people. Because if you do not have that, then you have true anarchy. Not anarchy in the actual political sense with beliefs ranging from communes to private cities, but the true anarchy that people know when they think of the term. That flash in the pan, everyone's doing whatever they want, things are in chaos type of anarchy. See, one should assess the core principles they hold or claim to hold and see if their own position lines up to outside scrutiny. Actually challenge your own beliefs. You don't necessarily have to watch your opponents, though that is advisable, but just take your beliefs and ask yourself important questions about them. Does this imply what I think it does? Why does it do so? How does this work? What makes this true? If you cannot explain that, if you cannot comprehend your own beliefs, you're effectively just parroting something without understanding it. You're holding a position without understanding the foundation for which you stand upon. A person who stands on sand yet pretends it is stone is not truly wise or truly in a good position. They are not holding themselves to truth, in essence. They are instead holding themselves to a delusion. If you cannot understand why things work the way they do in your mind, try to understand. I get that not everyone's forte is politics, philosophy, economics, or any other such thing which they may hold a position on. But do at least a bit of research. Get an understanding of what you are arguing. Because it's easy to make a claim, whether it be the populist, turkey in every pot, or the extremely elitist, only my people should be able to make this decision. It's easy to say one of those things, but it's truly difficult to actually explain, okay, how are we going to pay for the turkeys? Okay, why should your group be in charge? That requires actual forethought, actual understanding of one's beliefs and why they believe it. Now, can someone make such beliefs and have justifications for them. Yes, they can. But that requires thinking. It requires getting a consistent position from which to act around. Like a fort or a citadel. They hold a position, a secure position, and expand and plan around it. When you're taking a city in the medieval times, what people would do was they would actively aim for the citadels. Why? Because it was a strong point, one which the defenders could plan everything around. And the defenders knew this, so they prepared accordingly. What you want to do is have your own ideas set up like that citadel. Strong and consistent, and able to hold up to scrutiny. If it cannot, then your ideas are, in function, worthless. Because they can easily be challenged, broken, and you're left with nothing. You don't prove yourself of anything, nor do you prove to others that your beliefs have any value or merits. Just because you have a mouth does not mean the words coming out of them hold any value. That is true for me, it is true for you, it is true for everyone. Just because you believe something does not make it true. Just because I believe something doesn't make it true. This belief, and this reality really, applies to everyone. And consistency is a good way of consolidating things, to understand things. Because if you build a narrative, or any structure, that is consistent and functional, then you can work around it, adjust it as needed. And when a part proves itself to be untenable, then you can adjust it and plan around that, shifting as necessary until you find the truth. There's a reason scientists hold on to principles until they are disproven and only adopt new principles once they are proven. It is because in the search for the truth, you need that consistency, that reliability. The uncertainty principle was proven. Even the principle which said things are uncertain was proven by scientists after doing repeated tests and studies. It was not just adopted. And that is also the case, or at least should be, with one's own beliefs and arguments. Emotions do not hold water beyond fickle winds. And that is not a valuable thing. I'm sorry, but me crying is not valuable to anyone. You think me crying suddenly makes my position correct? I would hope not, because it simply doesn't. But what happens in such a case where ignoring emotions, and once one's doing the review, they find a case where they hold two conflicting opinions? Well, in such a case, it is key to reconcile the two and understand why both are valued and why the conflicts arrive. Let's say a person has high moral standards on one hand, but also believes in that laissez-faire, live and let live mentality I was talking about earlier. Those two things can conflict. But why? For example, a person can say, prostitution is morally wrong, you should not do it. But also say, people should be free to do what they want within reasonable bounds. Those bounds being, you ain't hurting anyone else, I'm not affected, so it's fine. Such a thing is rather simple. But if something is wrong, then something should be done about it. And so, the person finds a moral conflict. But they can still reconcile it, accepting that, yes, a thing is still wrong. Something should be done about it, but it is their choice to engage in the immorality. It is their choice to engage in the behavior. And so while I will not pressure a ban, I will still discourage it, I will still do this or that to try to lessen it. Holding the high moral standards on this specific issue, in this case prostitution, while still allowing a person to make their own choices of their free will. It's a reconciliation of two values and an understanding of why you hold them. Live and let live is not held because people make perfect decisions all the time. It is held because, fundamentally, people should be free to do their own thing, and we do not have the right to enforce upon a person something else. I do not have the right to put a gun to your head and say, you will do this for me because I said so. You do not have to do my laundry because I put a gun to your head, or any other absurd thing that I may come up with. That is the basics and why people believe in live and let live. People believe in high moral standards because that's what's needed to keep a society functioning. If you just say, anything's fine, whether it be murder, theft, drug use, yada yada, then you simultaneously say that the destruction of society is acceptable. Because those things do erode society. The opportunity costs of these actions, and the distrust formed through them as well, naturally lower the success of a society. They hurt society. They are degenerate. They cause degeneration, hence the term. And so they are bad. High moral standards exist because of this. And they must necessarily be applied to the person who holds them just as much as everyone else around them. Otherwise, the logical consistency is lacking within one's own values, or specifically, their own value, those high moral standards. So, in essence, you can have beliefs that are different, that contradict on some occasions, but when you find those conflicts, reconcile them, understand them, and why you would argue the line must be drawn here instead of here or somewhere else. If you can understand that, then you can understand your own thought process and why you value things as much as you do. You can tell which values you hold greater or lesser than others. And if you can do that, then you can weigh them as necessary. However, in more extreme cases, those where reconciliation is impossible, one opinion or value will have to be dropped and the person must weigh which they value more. For example, if one believes in, let's say, how should I put this? Equality and liberty. Okay, let's use those common ones as an example. If you believe that people are equivalent and that things should be roughly the same on some level, but also believe that people should be free to do their own thing and decide for themselves their own lives, those two things are irreconcilable. That may sound extreme to some people, but I will defend this quite easily. Equivalence does not exist in the world. Naturally. It cannot exist naturally. And so, to let people be free to make their own decisions will not lead to equality. They will not. So, in order for people to be free, you must abandon equality. In order for people to be equal, you must abandon freedom and start controlling people. In such a case, these two things cannot coexist, and so one must pick which they value more. I, of course, have my own conclusion, hyper-individualism, so take a wild guess which one I picked. But those two things cannot coexist, and so in such a case, a person must weigh which they value more and choose that. That's not to say that you necessarily have to abandon all the reasoning behind your initial love of the other value, or your initial support of it. A person could value equality because it allows one to treat everyone as human. And one can still treat people as human even with just liberty. Because while people may be different and slightly unequal, they still have value as humans. The value of their freedom and their own autonomy with their bodies. That is value in and of itself. You reconcile what remains and why you believed in the one you had to abandon. You understand it, and you process it. The world makes things... How should I put this? I do apologize. But this world we live in works on premises. As do people. We work on things acting in accordance with certain rules, regulations, or other such ideas. Basically, the world works on principles. Presuppositions. For example, if I were to pick up a pen or a pencil, sorry for the pause, like this one here, if I drop it, gravity will impact it. If I were to do that, my paper would have a mark on it. This does not suddenly change between strokes, between drops. It just is. Principles are what drive the world. The world doesn't care about your beliefs. It does not care about whether or not you had breakfast this morning. It just is. And it has premises which it operates upon. And those premises will continue whether we like it or not. There is no emotional appeal that will change gravity. There is no emotional appeal that changes the fact that when I do this, I am causing sound waves that people hear and pick up. We do things for reasons, unconscious or not. They may be emotional drives, subconscious, or purely actually rationalized and understood decisions. But they are still made with some justification within our minds. It is this decision to do something that fundamentally results in our later actions. I want this, so I do this. Or my brain says, hey, I don't like that, let's not go there, and so I walk in the other direction. Or on impulse, because my brain picks up a stimulus that it wants to react to immediately, it will make me do something before I can even think about what it's trying to make me do. And that's because our brains, go figure, have purposes and operate on premises. Don't freaking die. That is the main premises that the brain of a human operates on. It's the main premises that most living things operate on. And so if something works, then that's what things are going to be for the brain. This does this, so that's what I'm going to do. And the only exception that it will find, almost always, is the continuation of one's bloodline or one's society because it deems them as an extension of itself. My children? Oh, I gotta protect them so that they can reproduce, my genes go on. It's that simple. Society is treated as basically a giant family, and so people who defend it are acting in a similar way. Any proper position, thus, requires one to understand the premises that they are working under when they make them. Why are you doing this? Why am I, for example, avoiding the dark? Is it because I'm scared of what's in it? Did I have previous trauma due to it? Or do I just not like going into places that I can barely see things? Could be any number of reasons, but I need to understand why if I'm going to make a proper decision about it. Similarly, if I'm going to argue for tax cuts or tax hikes or any other thing, could be moral, could be economic, could be political. Maybe I just want a bear as president, who freaking knows, but I gotta have an understanding of why I want that. Why do I want Pooh to sit in the Oval Office? I'm of course joking, but the main point still stands. Why do you want something? Why is X, this focus of yours, so valuable? What purpose is there in it? Do you want something because it makes you feel good? Maybe you get a direct material benefit from it. Maybe your values say that this is the best way forwards, or that a society works best under this rule. Whatever it is, try to actually understand it, fathom it. If you cannot, you will find yourself in a bad position because, well, it's kind of hard to make a decision when you're actively avoiding all the logical thinking necessary to fully understand what you're doing. A person acting on pure impulse without ever considering why is basically just a deer in human skin. And I don't mean that to say that a person lacks rationality or the capability, but rather they are choosing to actively ignore it. An idea fit for swine would be an adequate way to describe it. It is purely impulsive. It isn't utilitarian or based on some principle that one can hold deontologically. It's just based on hedonism, sadism, or any other nonsense based purely on the impulses and whims of an individual. That holds no real value. Why? Because your actions will not build to a greater purpose. They will fleet away on the whims that created them, and will not stand to last any longer than the action itself. That's just how it is. And so, if you wish to make a point, make a structure, make a plan, and figure out why things are the way they are. Maybe you have a few flaws. Maybe your square or rectangle ain't perfect. You don't got a fully structural shape, but at least you have something. And you can work to refine it further. And so that is what I would advocate you do. Thank you for watching. I do hope you enjoy. Goodbye.